Okay, Ms. Okay.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to call the Peoria Public Schools Board of Education meeting for October 26, 2020 to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick,
Here.
Mr. Kloss,
Here.
Dr. Rankin,
Here.
Mr. Walther,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mrs. Ross,
She muted? Mrs. Ross,
Mrs.
you're
Ross?
muted.
Mrs. Ross, can you unmute?
We'll get her.
Okay. And President Shaw?
Here.
7 present.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Pledge allegiance.
of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ross is here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, starting on the phone, board members have announcements. Okay, in the room?
Hey, President Shaw, I do have an announcement.
Vice President Wilson.
Thank you. Immunizations and physicals. Sixth graders returning to in-person instruction on November 4th need to be up to date on their immunizations and physicals first. Submit those health records to your school nurse today or send an appointment card. As a reminder, the in-school health clinics at Treewind, Peoria, and your high school can all administer immunizations and physicals. If you have any questions, contact your school and we will provide assistance.
Other announcements on the phone? Dr. Rankin?
Peoria Public Schools Foundation College Scholarships. Attention high school seniors. Peoria Public Schools Foundation will have $28,500 in college scholarships available for the class of 2021. Applications will be available starting on November 1st. Links to the applications are at www.ppsfoundation.org/student-scholarships.
Mr. Klaus?
Election Day holiday, Election Day Tuesday, November 3rd is a state holiday. Peoria Public Schools, buildings, and offices will be closed.
Okay. And I have upcoming Peoria High PSA auditions for 8th grade students. Peoria High School's Preparatory School for the Arts offers an educational environment that utilizes multiple approaches to learning and creativity. The focus is on student learning, growth, and performance. PSA offers programs in band, choir, orchestra, dance, drama, and visual arts. The PSA is open to students district-wide. 8th grade students can sign up for auditions now. Go to the Peoria High School website to register for an audition. And also, I want to thank the Woodruff Career and Technical Center for the bulletin board on my right, and to Franklin Primary School for the bulletin board on my left. Thank you. All right. And now we have awards and recognitions. We have Principal Hiles presenting the Those Who Excel winner and the Donald M. Ferris Teacher of the Year Award. Thank you.
Well, good evening, board members. Good evening, Dr. Karat. I'm Dan Hiles, very proud principal of Dr. Maud A. Sanders. It's my sincere honor to be here again tonight. I had the privilege of introducing the Early Career Educator Award recipient just a couple of weeks ago. And I'm honored to be here again tonight, this time introducing the Donald Ferris Excellent in Education Award winner, Mauricia Page, to all of you. Mrs. Page teaches 4th grade at Dr. Maud A. Sanders, and she is truly among the best in the business. Her organization and pedagogical savvy is only matched by her genuine care and love for her students. And when you put those qualities together, you truly get something amazing. Carol Hale, special education teacher who works closely with Mrs. Page, states that she empowers students to be leaders within their classroom, their grade, and their school. The students rise to this opportunity and are a cohesive learning family who share responsibilities for their classroom. Families in the school notice her qualities as well. Former parent Rachel Franklin spoke to Mrs. Page's strengths as a teacher. Mrs. Franklin wrote that despite entering unknown waters, presenting challenges for teachers and their students, Mrs. Page seamlessly created a virtual classroom for her students, allowing them to continue in their studies and, collectively as a class or personally, meet with her to discuss any questions or concerns they were experiencing. Mrs. Franklin also went on to say, "Our family has been blessed to have had the opportunity to witness Mrs. Page's outstanding education she poured into our child. He has been profoundly affected by her passion for learning and love demonstrated daily to her students." In the words of Rita Pearson, "Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists they become the best they can possibly be." These powerful statements can be backed up and added upon by students, families, staff, and administrators who have had the privilege to spend time with Mrs. Page and watch her in action. Her influence has not stopped at the school or even the district level, though. Mrs. Page recently represented the West Central region in the Illinois State Board of Education's Teacher of the Year Award as a finalist. She was among 10 teachers from our entire state who made it to that point, and I have to say it was a tremendous honor to see her and see the recognition that she was given to her for that, because that was truly an amazing accomplishment. So what I've shared with you tonight doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the contributions Mrs. Page has made to her students, families, colleagues, our school, and the district. With that being said, it is my tremendous honor and privilege to introduce to all of you the Donald Ferris Excellent in Education Award winner, Mrs. Mauricia Page.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say that this is very humbling. It's very honoring. What I do it because I feel it's what my kids need. I feel it's what my families need and my colleagues need. I don't do it for the recognition, but it feels really good to know that I have an administrator who sees me. He sees what I do, and he appreciates that, and not just me, but throughout our entire staff. So I'm at a loss for words. I never thought I would get this award for the district, let alone be a representative for the state of Illinois for the West Central region. And so, again, I'm just very humbled that I've been chosen to be a voice for our students and our families and our schools. So thank you very much. I will use my voice wisely to speak up and advocate where I see fit. So thank you.
Congratulations. Ms. Bobby? Open it up. Hey, Thomas, will Bobby Ferris? She didn't want to. Okay. And Mr. Hiles and Mrs. Page, Bobby Ferris, who is Don Ferris's wife, normally participates in these events with us. And because of COVID and just traveling limitations, she's unable to join us, but just super proud of you, and we're all proud of you also. So, but I wanted to let you know that Bobby is probably watching and cheering for you. And I'm sure so is her husband. So again, great job and congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Hiles.
So moving to district presentations, we have none scheduled for tonight. Is that correct, Dr. Crott? Okay, so we are at presentations by audience. Presentations by audience are limited to 5 minutes, and we ask that you keep the comments constructive and positive. First speaker tonight is Terry Knapp.
First thing I'd like to mention is, anybody read Blackout by Candace Owens yet in your library? I offered $25 to each of you, so.
I'm halfway through it.
You good? Anybody else? I'll donate your 25. Nobody else? I'll give that to the foundation. So appreciate you reading, or starting to have read that. I want to comment about the boards, since you commented about the boards. I still want to refresh your memory. When Lathan was here, those boards were blank for 4 months, blank. And I brought up the fact that they were blank, and then they got taken care of. I want to congratulate Dr. Crott on, I mean, the boards have been beautiful, you know, and that's partly the board, but it's also Dr. Crott, I know. I want to mention that I filed 2 Freedom of Information Act requests from the city before I went on vacation a month ago. I got back. I didn't have a response in the mail. The reason why I bring this up is, since when Lathan was here, she didn't believe in the Freedom of Information Act, and she was chastised and taken to the state, basically, for not responding timely to FOIAs. Since Dr. Crott's been here, I don't know of any that haven't been responded to in an appropriate manner and on a timely manner, and if they were not responded to, you got a letter as per the FOIA deal saying that you needed more time, and that's the appropriate thing. I have not received a letter from the city in a month on either one. I called today and talked to the people in the city clerk's office and told them of my disappointment in the way and the lack of professionalism, that they can't even follow their own state laws, basically. And it's a credit to you and to the administration for doing a great job with the FOIA process. I think that's important to say that. I have a shirt on, 1776. I'm still concerned. I got your Black History handout, and I appreciate it. I got a chance to look through it. I contacted a couple of university research departments and trying to get a comparison on research between 1776, which you all know what 1776 is, and 1619, which I'm sure you all know what 1619 is, but nobody seems to know anything about this, okay? Only because it hasn't been around and it hasn't been researched. There will eventually be research, but I don't understand how we invest money in a program that has totally no research out there on it. I mean, both these universities told me they could find nothing. I mean, that it's there, they know that it's there, but it hasn't been around long enough to have any, what I want to say, results reported with it. And I think that's kind of an interesting scenario, and I just bring that to your attention. Another question I have, and my last question basically, is the school renamings. I missed a meeting, and I would like someone to tell me or impart to me whether or not the community needs to put this on referendum, because we need to start collecting signatures if you are truly going to go through this without putting it on a referendum on the ballot yourself. So if you could respond to that, eventually the community would appreciate it. Thank you much.
Next, we have Lauren Wolfe.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Lauren Wolfe. I'm both a teacher and a parent in the district. And I have a few concerns and a few questions that I'm really hoping can be answered. So I looked up our COVID metrics here in the county and in our region. And currently, right now, our region is at 7.2%. Peoria County, as of 10/23, just that day alone, was 8.2% of positivity. And they've said if we are 3 days of positivity, then there are going to be more restrictions placed on us. So I'd like to know kind of what that'll play in the school roles. Because I can say that, 2 through 4 started back today, which was fabulous. I'm an Acellus teacher. So the only time I'm out of my classroom really is if I'm going to the teacher's lounge, to my mailbox, or if I have to go down the hallway to use the restroom. I'm not sure how many students I saw being sent home because of possible symptoms today. There were quite a few, and I know that since K1 has been in our building, we've had students with positive cases. And those students were quarantined, but nobody else in their classrooms were quarantined. And I'm not quite sure why that didn't happen with those cases. Just doesn't really make sense to me. We've also gone up in the last 10 days. The metrics online were from 10/13 to 10/23 each day, kind of the average of positivity. And it's gone up a whole % in those 10 days. So I'm just curious, how is this going to affect school and things like that? Because we did just start reopening different classrooms. And I also would like to know why the district isn't sending out numbers of quarantined positive cases, et cetera, per building. There are lots of other districts here in the area that do that weekly for their families, just to give them some comfort that they're taking good care of everything going on. So I'm just curious why we can't. Also, in Acellus, here's my data, my 23 lovely students that I had from between August 24th and October 2nd when I printed this, probably almost 200 pages, of how my kids are doing. And I mean, I've got kids retaking things 9 and 10 times in order to get 100%. And then that makes their grades look really, really good. But they're reading at a first grade level in 4th grade. And I'm having a very hard time as a teacher being told, do what you can to help them out. I'm literally tutoring kids one-on-one for hours on end each day. I can work with one child for 2 to 3 hours a day trying to help them catch up. We're being told we can't use IXL. Kindergarten is not allowed to use IXL. Kindergarten isn't even in IXL. But I have IXL and I get a weekly message saying, oh, your class hasn't done any IXL. Well, we are being told by Dr. Wilson that Acellus is not allowed to use IXL. I have kids who need that intervention piece in order to help them. I am one person and I can't spend 3 hours with one kid every single day trying to help that one kid. I have 22 other students I also need to help. So I need something more than Acellus, because Acellus does not let you take it back grade levels. IXL would be at their grade level. I should know, my first grader uses it. And boy, you should have seen the look on his face when last Tuesday he did it for the first time. He took the placement test. He was doing multiplication problems The child is 6 years old, but he's really good at math. So it's one of those that it can also challenge those kids that need a challenge, but we're being told we can't use the tools that the board approved to be bought for all students in the district. And I have a big problem with that. I also have a problem with the kids who went back hybrid from Acellus are being told that on those days off, they can still use Acellus while they're at home. We were told that that couldn't happen, but now they're being told that. And so those kids are playing catch up. Well, who's supposed to unlock all those tests? Who's supposed to be monitoring how those kids are doing? Because I still have a full class load. I actually gained kids from teachers who had to go back into the classroom because of numbers. And now I've also got the extra kids who are all out of my system because they're in classrooms in person, but they can still use the program that we're using. So I don't quite understand that. And that is what I got. Thank you.
We have Leslie Danich.
Hi, good evening. I am also a Peoria Public Schools teacher. This is my 20th year. Way to ring in the 20th during COVID. And I'm also a parent. I have 2 children who have graduated from Richwoods High School, and I have a first grader currently enrolled at Keller, who's also an IEP student. So lots of experience with District 150. Today I'm here to speak specifically about kindergarten online resources. As some of you may be aware, if not, you are now, previous speaker, upper administration recently decided to delete all of the kindergarten IXL accounts. I myself was unaware of this decision until families began to email and message to let me know that they were receiving an account deactivated message. I know this was a board-approved purchase because I am normally at home watching the meetings each time they occur. I bring this to your attention for several reasons. And these are actual questions that feel free to answer when I'm finished. Number 1, why are we deleting accounts that we have already purchased? Number 2, why are we deleting the core recess listed in our pacing guide and progression? Number 3, why are we now being asked to use a remedial program, namely Waterford, as core instead of IXL? Number 4, where is the equity in allowing the 2 pilot schools from our far north areas to use this program while requiring our other buildings to use a platform that was purchased for tiered interventions only? And number 5, where is the data that continues to support pushing Waterford? As a parent, I've opted out of that program for my own child because there is no data that supports that it closes a gap. Now, when or if you ask upper admin about this, you will likely get a list of other resources. I want you to understand that giving kindergarten students access to an online encyclopedia or a website that is only used for assessment, ESGI, and NWEA, or even an online library that does not allow for teacher tracking is not the same as providing a Tier 1 grade level resource that is aligned to learning standards. You may also hear that teachers are able to use Zern or Teacher Monster to read. I want you to understand that both of those are free websites where teachers roster their own students and collect only a limited amount of data. IXL is the only online platform in our district that provides both activities for math and reading that are aligned to the kindergarten learning standards. That's important because it aligns to what we're doing in the classroom so that we can assign those skills for practice as we've been instructed to on student off and at home days. In my own building, both parents and teachers alike supported IXL because it requires only one login. Teachers can easily assign skills for the week for off days. Teachers can also easily differentiate assignments, as the speaker before me was mentioning, for all guided reading and workstation groups. So that means everybody in my class can have core assignments, and then they can also have skills that are assigned by me for their reading and their math level individually. So core and individually. I ask that our IXL accounts that were a board-approved purchase be reactivated. I ask that you as a board look at the data for Waterford. I ask that you listen to our parents when they tell you they do not need another change or another new login. I ask that you think about equity when only certain schools are able to use IXL while others are forced to use remedial programs. I ask that you talk to teachers instead of continuing to take the word of coordinators and directors that have not been in our hybrid or distance classrooms for more than 2 minutes since we have returned. If you have any questions while I'm here, I know that typically no one asks for any details, but I am happy to answer as both a parent or teacher to maybe shed some light on this issue, because I truly am at a loss as to why this service was removed when it was a board-approved purchase. Thanks for your time.
Dr. Karat, would you like to respond to audience?
Thank you, President Shaw. And I would like to thank all of our speakers, Mr. Knapp, Ms. Wolfe, and Ms. Lisa for coming. And is Ms. Gifford on the line? Is Lisa Gifford on the line? She's not. So lots of curriculum-related questions. Dr. Wilson, do you want, and I can chime in?
So when the board approved IXL for K-8 Tier 1 support, the amount that was approved was $57,055. And it did not cover the cost of license for the full implementation of K-8.
Dr. Wilson, excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you use the podium, please? Thank you. Forward listening audience. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Hello, President Shaw and Board of Education. I think it's on. So as I said earlier, IXL was approved for a K-8 Tier 1 support. The amount that was approved was $57,055. It did not cover the cost of license for full implementation for K-8 for first semester. We used a quote with student count as our best guess at the time, but we were unable to purchase all the licenses that were approved by the board in August. So after considering the best course of action with the curriculum team, it was determined that we could purchase enough license for students grades 1 through 8 first semester, then use additional Title I carryover funds, which are usually distributed in December for second semester for IXL for kindergarten. We also took this course of action since we have purchased at the teacher's request, as was previously mentioned, ESGI, which is an online benchmark assessment for kindergarten only. It monitors students' progress, which is aligned to the teachers, it's aligned to the standards for kindergarten. And that's also on our Peoria Public Schools kindergarten report card. Additionally, the teachers can create formative assessments as they notice that students are struggling as an option as well. Another feature of ESGI, it provides individualized tools that are generated for parents and families to use at home as an additional option that's aligned for the progress in the data, who might not be meeting grade level expectation. Our thoughts are that kindergarten students need more direct instruction for speaking, listening, diction, hearing for understanding, and time to share what they hear to show what they know when they first arrive. We realize that computerized program, although excellent, it could not attend to the detail of those students first semester as proficiently as our kindergarten teachers can, especially in first semester. So again, we do plan on, as was approved by the Board of Education, to purchase IXL for kindergarten, and we're planning on doing that in December so that everyone has that for second semester.
Okay. Okay, so did you have anything else to add, Dr. Pratt?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay. Dr. Rankin?
I'm not sure where, so I'm looking back at our agendas, and the 57 that you stated is not what was in our agendas, and that what was approved, unless I'm looking at the wrong agenda. It says 63,394,000 was approved by the board, and so that is a difference of 6,000, give or take, knowing that the north side schools have used their I don't know what it's called, their curriculum funds, their project funds, there's kind of extra funds.
The
to
latchkey fund, I think Keller used.
Yep, Keller used it. So they're kind of out of the equation. What I'm kind of disappointed to hear as a educator myself is the equalness that the curriculum team is trying to put with IXL and ESGI. They're completely different. ESGI is not a curriculum, and it's something that teachers can build. IXL is something that's research-based and doesn't have to take the time that teachers are already doing to take the time to build their curriculum and put it out, as well as what one of the people stated that that IXL is with the scope and sequence of kindergarten and is a tier 1. And so when I got a flurry of text messages as a board member, and I don't know if other board members did, stating that we had it the day before and now we don't have access to IXL, as a parent and educator, I know the importance of having that and the lack of communication to families knowing that that was going to be taken away. So what I am wondering, as a board, we approved K-8. It was not told to us that K was going to be taken away. That, I think, is unprofessional and disrespectful to the board, as we are the ones who approved the K-8. And I also think it's disrespectful to the teachers and families who are relying on that and who already are, their lids are flipped. They're already so far into stress that adding this onto their plate is not something that should have come about. And so I am 100% behind the teachers in the room. ESGI is not the same. For anyone who has used ESGI, it is not the same. IXL is a completely different program, and it was approved for $63,000, not $57,000. And I want to kind of hold, as a board, the administration liable for the miscommunication and the kind of suddenness of taking away IXL, which is a valuable tool for the teachers.
Sure.
So right now, it sounds like kindergarten doesn't have a tier 1. And that is something that is concerning. ESGI is not tier 1. And so there is no tier 1 for kindergarten now, which is needed during this time of remote learning, as you heard from 2 teachers, and I'm sure we could get 50 more teachers in here stating the same thing.
Dr. Rankin, as you know, tier 1 is the teacher. So kindergarten does have tier 1, and it was not taken away from them, as we said. I said it in my reports on Friday to the board. I sent it today again regarding IXL, that because of the funds, it's coming, but it will come in. It's tiered in and phased in December. So it's coming, but it's going to come in December. By then, we'll have additional funds to bring it on. And in the meantime, best practice is, as educators who've been in this business for over 20-something years, tier 1 is the teacher, and it's the best. It's the best, and an effective instructor is the best out there on the market.
Absolutely, 100%. But I also...
Thank you. And so it's coming in December.
So I guess my question is, how did some of the families have it and then all of a sudden not have it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that. We can find out.
I can certainly find out. What I would guess is that when we renewed the subscription, all of the license, and I don't know the exact time that it was taken away, Leslie, if you know the exact date.
Sure. It was the Tuesday before last, so almost 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So, I will find out from IXL, the ones that were taken away. It was my understanding that they renewed the subscription, and we rostered as many students as we could, and we made a decision based on the uniqueness of kindergarten to have really teachers be the focus of the students' instruction with our other online resources that we currently have, which are teacher-directed and teacher-initiated. And so, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Doc. And additionally, there are 6 other resources, online resources, and that's available. And we heard our teachers mentioned, I think, 2. I think, what are those, Dr. Wilson? I know
So
one of-
Discovery Ed has
Right.
different features. World Book has additional features.
For kindergarten.
Light Sail has features, and as mentioned, Zern has features. And also, I provided.
Did you say World Book?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you.
And so all of those they have resources inside, and they are meant to be a tier 1, but they're meant to be teacher-directed. So as a teacher is watching a student learn and discovering where they're at, whether they're accelerated, they're on grade level, or they're below grade level, a teacher can utilize those resources themselves to provide that individualized support.
And
IXL is certainly robust, but there's a diagnostic piece that comes with that, and that places the student where they're ready to, where IXL says they're ready to learn, and it doesn't take into account all the nuances that a teacher has. Kindergarten, being the youngest students, it's going to take a little bit for us to get to know them, and we felt like that this was a good compromise to support our teachers because they really know the students best.
And we're working, I thank our teachers for coming this evening. We're working very closely with the union. We had a conversation last week. They're advocating, they know it's coming, so it's coming. We'll get some additional funds in December, and you'll get it.
And so then my question for Discovery Ed, World Book, Light Sail, Zern, those that you had mentioned, if I were to ask a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, for their scope and sequence, would those curriculum pieces be within the scope and sequence? Because it sounds like the IXL is part of the scope and sequence that teachers are to be using for their curriculum, but I'm wondering if these other resources are also aligned to the scope and sequence of the curriculum that the students and teachers will be using in kindergarten.
They're all standard-based. Most online resources are aligned to standards. That's the common practice. And what we have is we have a condensed standard that our teachers are to be utilizing, and they are utilizing. I spoke about that earlier. When we have the blended model and we knew that we were going to have reduced amount of time, our curriculum coordinators, math, science, social studies, and reading, created condensed standards that were to be followed to help support the teachers so that they knew exactly how to make sure that they addressed all the standards. So all of our resources are standard aligned, and the teacher utilizing and pulling those resources to match what is happening in front of them is really, in our opinion, the best course of action. A teacher knows their students best.
Right, and so I guess one of my last questions, and then we can move on, is I don't know if the curriculum committee actually spoke to the teachers because the teachers were in shock. And so when it's being stated that we think it's best and we think it's this, I think that while I understand the teachers union, I also understand that there are no, if not minimal, elementary teachers on the teacher union. And then while I understand that they support the entire teacher, I also understand that kindergarten is its own world. As a former kindergarten teacher, I know that. And I'm very concerned that first the board was not informed that it was taken away, and that I learned through parents and teachers emailing and texting me. I'm wondering about the scope and sequence and the support. Knowing that we condensed the standards, I would think that we as a district would want to support the equity of students learning through providing the resource that provides the best equity, which is IXL. And so overall, I think that that this is overall concerning with how the curriculum was rolled out, and teachers were not talked to. When you say we decided, it was the administration, and I understand that, but the board was not spoken to, and neither were the teachers, and that, to me, is very, very concerning, that this was something that came through. So, again, we can take this offline, but Tier 1, right? IXL, like my son in 6th grade uses IXL. I understand that the kindergarten teachers want to use it. ESGI is not synonymous, so stating that is not giving an answer. And so I would also really want to see the scope and sequence to see if IXL is stated on scope and sequences, And if not, then I can understand Discovery Ed wouldn't be, World Book wouldn't be, Light Sail wouldn't be. But if IXL is specifically stated on scope and sequences, then it's even a bigger concern when we're thinking about curriculum and the implementation of curriculum at the school level. So I think there just needs to be a lot more communication and a lot more of teacher voice outside of the union, but actually talking to kindergarten teachers who this impacted, it seems like, overnight. From my perspective, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think one last thing to just point out, and you bring up some excellent points, and I think we align everything as best we can, but actually our curriculum, the Peoria Public School Curriculum Guide is our curriculum. And everything that we use, whether it's IXL, World Book, whatever, it is to match our curriculum. We don't take IXL or any other, and we align our world to them. We need to make sure that it matches. And I think all of these can with the teacher's touch. So, I think you bring up some excellent points, and I appreciate all of them. And, it was a financial decision. And when we looked at the grades, K through 8, to us, the coordinators, the curriculum team, looked at it overall, and we thought we would be able to wait 2 months to give that additional resource, because there were other pieces that we felt kindergarten teachers had, and we know how important it is to have that teacher-student touch, especially at our youngest learners. So,
Right.
Good points, and I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Right,
Thank
and
you.
with the lack of time that teachers have with face-to-face, we want the most support. And I think the most
Absolutely.
support is providing those pieces that the board has approved. And so I guess just my last question, I promise, is what happened to the $6,000 between what was spent and what the board
Yeah.
approved?
I
Like, is that sitting?
apologize. I think I pulled the wrong one. There were several different reports, and I'm sorry that I pulled the wrong one that was listed on the board agenda. There were
So it was the
all
one that
went-
was on the board?
Yeah,
Oh.
all went to licenses.
Okay.
I think the moral of the story here this evening regarding IXL is that it was not taken away. It was not taken away. And, with additional funds in December, it will be, they will have it. And this is a time for them to, I don't know if I sent the board effective instructions by Dr. Arlington, what's his name, Arlington? And he talked about, in kindergarten, the first day, what we have to do, actually the second day is find out the children who do not know their letters. And then by November, they should all be reading with a variety of powerful instructional strategies. So, and that's the tier 1 with teacher support. And so it was not taken away. They will have it, and it fits perfectly with our timeline. And when it comes to equity, I would say we are far and above any other district. I'll put my money on it as it relates to equity. You have a superintendent, that's all I think about, and that's what I do, and that's what I have done my whole life. So, yeah, thank you.
I think I recall this item, we were trying to allocate, and the enrollment numbers were still solidifying, so we were trying to put a hard number on it, and I think we needed to provide some latitude on that number, so we should have allocated a bit more, and then you come back and tell us what the actuals were, and then we could have approved that. But, so I think just going forward, we probably want to provide some flexibility in that budget procedure going forward. So in case we have this situation again.
So then I have another question about the budget. As it was stated, and as I've heard from other people, some of the students who are in Acellus currently also have an IXL account. Why do they have both of those accounts, and can't we not allocate those to Acellus and see if we can play around and get some kindergartners? Because from my understanding, Rolling Acres and Keller have it paid for through their latchkey funds. So that's 2 schools that are out of the way. And I guess why are we double dipping for some students who have Acellus and IXL? And then can't we take some of those IXL kids and can't we
Yeah.
play around with it some?
Yeah, they can look at that, Dr. Rankin.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other input from board members before we move on? Hearing none. Thank you. Informational items. We have the return to school plan, Dr. Karada.
Yeah, hopefully this one will be quick.
All right. We viewing, oh, do you have PowerPoint? No PowerPoint. Okay, okay.
Thank you, Board. Good evening. I just wanted to let you know, you would have been very, very, very proud today. As was referenced, I think, by Mrs. Wolfe, the second graders, third graders, and fourth graders came back, and I actually went to all of the buildings. Thank you to Mrs. Morris. She drove, and I would run in and spend about 20, 30 minutes and then go on to another building. And probably I went to about 50 classrooms today. And the teachers were so happy. The kids were so happy. Every class I attended, I asked them if they were happy to be back, and no one said no. The teachers were doing, it was amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Just pretty impressive, honestly. So just an update regarding, so now you have kindergartners and first graders and second graders and third graders and fourth graders in addition to the self-contained K through 12. And then we also talked about, oh, Michelle, do I have a PowerPoint? Okay, we didn't send it to you. It's the same one that you've seen, and actually I sent it to you on Monday. And so this is just a quick update regarding our in-person learning. And we're still continuing to lead during these ambiguous times. And so, Dr. Rankin mentioned, and I agree, we continue to strive. You can never over-communicate enough. And so we continue to do that, and we'll continue to do a better job at that. And so those 7 skills that I like, which you've seen, and you have it, so I won't spend any time with it. We have an amazing COVID committee, and they have been meeting regularly many times a week, just planning and planning for our upcoming testing with Reditus Lab, Dr. Rossi, and the Gilmore Foundation, and that's coming together very nicely. But Dr. Ike and Mr. Brooke and Andrea from HR and Ms. Hammer and our nurses, Jill and Sherry Byrne and Mr. Collins, and actually I have him on the line also. Katie and Monica from the health department, Matt Caw, Jeff Atkins Dutro, Dr. Wilson, Dr. Bell, Dr. Wood, Dr. Bond, Mary Fran, and Coach Booth. They're all in this COVID committee, and they were the ones who came up with the framework for locations at the high school and testing and all of that stuff, and we'll get to that. Ms. Wolfe actually mentioned our metrics, and I sent it to you. And we know as a state, we're struggling, and all the states are struggling. I'm not sure if it's also the time of year. And, but the positivity rate is 5.6, as you've seen, and the new cases. But one of the things I can tell you, though, is despite that, all of our mitigation strategies are just right on the money. When we talk about, I went into classrooms, they were well distanced and not crowded at all. And got a lot of feedback from the teachers about how comfortable they felt, that classes were divided into 2, and so they had an A class, half of the class today, half of the class tomorrow. That's powerful. And then obviously the cleaning, and then we're getting the testing, and so we can sort of get ahead of this thing. So with all of those pieces, I feel really good also along with the hygiene part, the washing of the hands and so forth. So we're in a very, very good place for sure, and I would like us to stay on that track. That's my recommendation. And so one of the things you will see is, and Mr. B, you can talk about that also. What we've done, because I think the last time we spoke, and I shared this with you, we are going to be super, super, super safe. You have a tummy ache, you have runny nose, you will be asked to stay home. and that impacts the entire family. And because of that, we will see our numbers going up, and that's okay. That's what I anticipated. So kind of wanting to share that with you, so don't get nervous about that. And it comes up and it goes down and it ebbs and flows that way. So we talked about our mitigation practices, our masks, splitting classes, the screening, the symptom screener. Every building I went to took my temperature and I was wearing my mask. If you don't, it tells you to put your mask back on. The daily cleaning and then the physical distancing, amazing. Our custodians are doing a really nice job also with that. And let's see, what else did I want you to know? Our mitigation practices in the building. So yeah, I'll ask Josh to talk to you about our testing sites and our partners, and then I'll pick up from there. Josh, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can. Let's give the board
Wonderful.
an update regarding all of the work that you and the committee have done with along with Dr. Rossi. Just a nice update on where we are so far. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so basically we are looking at taking a two-pronged approach, utilizing Dr. Rossi's services with the PCR COVID testing. So the first prong that we're approaching is a mitigating factor, and that is to conduct periodic testing of our high school students. And that is going to be presented this evening as an update or a revision to board policy. But that's going to be the first prong, is that periodic testing of the high school students. The second prong that we're working on is to establish additional sites for testing for our families and students. One of the sites that we're looking at getting up and running with COVID-19 testing is at our wraparound center, to establish a location there in the Tree-Win-Harrison attendance area for those students or families who may not have transportation to get to the Civic Center or some of the other testing sites in our community. The other partner that we're looking at partnering with for the PCR testing is with Heartland Clinic, and again, to establish an additional site for our families who may have difficulty getting to the Civic Center or some of the other locations. So that's kind of the two-pronged approach that we're taking. We have plans in place for the high school testing, for that to have that up and running by the week of November 23rd. So we have the ball rolling on that, and we're continuing to work with our partners and kind of work through those those things to get it set up at the wraparound center and at the Heartland Clinic. So that's kind of what we've been working on as far as the testing goes.
Thank you, Josh. So board, it is the goal of the board to provide in-person learning during the current pandemic in a manner that minimizes the spread without the necessity of quarantining a large number of students. And so to that end, the board, you have two action items. One is to institute a testing program that will test asymptomatic students on a regular basis, in addition to the symptomatic students. And so wanted to share that with you. A portion of the student body will be tested on a daily basis. And so everyone will be tested, just that will be chunked. So students may be tested more frequently in schools, and then of course if they're in sports and other things like that. And then the other action item that's on the agenda also is the agreement with Reditus Lab and Dr. Rossi. So those two things. So thank you, Josh. Then let's see. So just a quick update in terms of the phase 5 of the advancement plan. So 5th and 6th grade students, their first day will be November 4th for A, if they're in an A schedule, and then November 5th for those on the B schedule. And then that week, it's an A Friday week. And then the 7th and 8th graders, so we're going to chunk that also. 5th and 6th will come one week, 7th and 8th graders will come the following week. So the 7th and 8th graders will report to school on November 9th and 10th. And so then, again, we also talked about high school and how complicated high school is, and I was trying to explain it in an easy way for a parent today, and it's really hard to explain why high school is so much more challenging because of all of the moving parts. And then I just said, you know, because I love carrot cake, so we have the recipe to bake a carrot cake, and then all of a sudden, because of everything else and all the other opportunities, we're being asked to make a cheesecake, and that's kind of impossible. So use the cheesecake to make a carrot cake. So we identify students that, as it relates to the high school, phase 6, that may have been a really bad example, sorry. Phase 6 of the advancement plan for high school, the principals, along with their director, Dr. Wilson, they have those who are in need of additional supports. They come in person and learn through what we call an open space concept. And actually that started today. And I did go to Richwoods today, but by the time I got there, they were gone. So I'll catch them tomorrow. But I asked about how many students were in the building, and approximately 50-something. So it's still very, very manageable, and they're all spread out. So I wanted to give you an update as far as that's concerned. So just to summarize, the 4th grade, November 4th, 5th and 6th, November 9th, 7th and 8th, and then January 5th, the 9th through 12th, with the option right now of coming in person if supports are needed. So I think that's all I have regarding the updates.
Any questions from board members on the return to school plan?
Mr. Shaw,
Yes, Mrs. Ross.
I have a question for Josh. How will you choose the students to be tested? And if is it a random by volunteer, or do they have a choice? How will you choose students?
Everybody will be tested, Ms. Ross.
Okay, so as far as student selection, each school will make a determination on how many students they feel they can test in a day without major interruption. Let's say, just assume to answer your question, let's say that's 50 students. So then the school will take their A schedule and their B schedule, say alphabetical order, and break their students up into groups of 50. So you'd have group 1, group 2, group 3, so on and so forth. And then you would start with group 1, test those 50 students, the next day, the next 50, so on and so forth, until you've exhausted that list. Once you've exhausted the list, then you start over at the beginning back with group 1, and you just repeat that cycle until the end of school.
Okay, so it's not a random pick, and it's not. Do they have a choice as to whether they want to take it or not?
So the policy that we're presenting for approval is basically an all-in. In other words, any students that are attending in person, there is an expectation that they submit to the COVID-19 testing. Those families who do not wish to participate, then they can submit their request to basically withdraw from the testing. They can submit that to the COVID committee or to the administration for review to see if they can opt out of that.
Okay, and then the other question is, will staff also be tested?
Yes.
Right now, we are not including staff in the mandatory testing.
Someone just said yes.
Yes, it's all part of it, but right now we're phasing in the kids right now. They will be phased in.
Okay, that's what I'm really wondering, because I'm not sure what the numbers are now, but I think staff should be tested as well as children. But I was just wondering if they were going to, so that's going to be phased in, you say?
Yes, ma'am, and that's the goal, because we can do actually 300 tests a day, but it's all new. Remember, this has never been done before, so we're still building it, but that's definitely my goal also. But definitely those with symptoms, for sure, ASAP. But once we've phased in the kids, then the next step will be staff.
Okay. All right, that was my question for that. I was just wondering about the staff as well, because I know that we have staff now that have, had some issues in, with the kids coming back. It would seem that they would be tested as well.
Yeah, I think Dr. Ike, I heard him saying something. Doc, you want to?
Yes, Mrs. Ross. Right now, we included staff only for symptomatic, for when they develop symptoms and have to be quarantined. So, if they develop symptoms, rather than wait for 14 days, they can go to this quick location, get tested, and return to work without spending the 14 days at home. So that will start as soon as possible.
We can talk later, because this audio is actually really bad, so I cannot hear what you're saying. But thank you. I can talk. I just had that question.
President Shaw.
One second, Mrs. Costa.
Those who aren't speaking need to mute, and those on the phone should use *6 to toggle their mute.
Okay. If you're not speaking, please mute, and if you want to speak, use *6 to unmute on the phone. Okay, on the phone. Okay, yeah. So, we're getting a lot of feedback. Mrs. Costa, go ahead.
Yes, I do definitely agree. Mrs. Ross did ask a couple of the questions that I had. In addition, I do have another question, and that has to do with two things that I kept hearing from Josh, and that was the regular basis and periodic testing. Is there something that is a little bit more firm that says how often is periodic? Because periodic could be once a year, so is there something that is a little bit more firm that says, every X amount of days or something like that? And then again, I am very, very concerned in regards to the question regarding staff. And Dr. Ike, I believe you said something, and I'm not really sure because, again, the audio is really, really bad. But did you indicate something about symptoms? Did you say something about symptoms? And if you did, if that is what I thought you said, that they could be tested if they showed symptoms, I do not agree with that. I believe that because so many people are asymptomatic nowadays, I truly believe that staff should be included in that testing that is going to take place, quote, periodic or on a regular basis.
I'm in agreement with you, Ms. Costick, and we'll work towards that for sure. Right now, the priority is definitely putting a program together for a testing program together for the students, and the staff will quickly follow suit. And then regarding regular, that's a very good question. I will take a stab at it, and then Josh can add to it. And so when we say regular or periodic, the thinking is a kid can be tested twice a week. Every kid can be tested twice a week. So take it away, Josh.
Sure. So basically, we're looking at 3 high schools you've got 2 high schools that has a lot larger number of students potentially on the days, on the A day or B day, versus, say, Manual, which has a smaller number of students. So if you look at an A-B schedule and you say that we have between 600 and 600 students in that high school, and we can test somewhere between 50 and 100, it's not easy to say right now exactly how many we can do until we get up and running. But we believe that we can do up to 100 students a day. So if you take that into consideration, it would take approximately 6 days to get through each schedule. So you'd be looking at slightly over 2 weeks to get through the schedule at, say, Peoria High and Richwoods. Now at Manual, where you have a much smaller number of students, we would be able to get through those groups of students on a much quicker basis. So at Manual, you're probably looking at a 1 week to a 2 week turnaround time in between tests. So it just depends on the number of students that are in the building and how many students we can test in any given day. And that will kind of dictate how often that test occurs. So we kind of played around with the 2 week number. We played around with a couple other scenarios, but it really depends on the number of tests we can do per day and how many students are on each schedule in the building as to kind of dictate how often that rotation cycle is going to be.
Excuse me, I do have a question in regards to that, and we're talking about the numbers of students. Can someone provide me with the approximate number of children as of today that have come back to school? Of the 13,000 children that are enrolled in Peoria Public Schools, at this point in time, how many are actively in the A and B schedule?
I asked for that information, and let me see if I received it. But we were anticipating about 1,500. Josh, how many did you transport today?
I think all total, I think between the two, if I remember right off the top of my head, between K through 4 that were on either the A-B schedule was somewhere around 4,200 students total in the district.
So I remember asking a principal today, and she said, I said, how many kids do you have in your building today? So it's not very many, Ms. Kostick, and she thought she had about less than 200 kids on A day and would get another 200. Like, I think she said 175 for A day and another 175 B day. And many of them, by the time I got there, they were still, they were still getting their counts in. They had not done their counts yet. So I could definitely get that for you tomorrow, but it's really, when you think about it, it's not a lot, because remember, that population is split in half, and on A day, half on B day, and then you have some that are not, they've decided to take the remote option, and some schools are better than others. Some schools, maybe 10 families decided to do that. Other schools, 20%, but overall, 75%, about 70% of our families decided to do the in-person. But then when you split it, it's not a lot at all. Yeah.
I guess the reason that I ask that is that I'm kind of concerned of why it would take approximately 2 weeks to go through all of the students.
Yeah. A couple of things, and thank you for asking. And it's part of our plan that it's students and staff, so I want to put that out there for my team. And then we have to, I think Josh or Dr. Ike, one of them said it, we have to see actually how many of them come in. And then the other part also, Ms. Kostick, is there is a finite time for testing. And so it starts at what time and it ends at what time? So Josh, what are the hours for testing?
So right now we're set up to do 2 hours. I think it's 9 to 11 for testing. and the maximum number that Reditus Labs said that they feel they could get done in that amount of time is about 100. So that's kind of what we're shooting for, is to try to, once we get it up and running, we're shooting to do about 100 students a day. But like I said, that would probably be max.
And what we'll continue to do is, Ms. Kostick, is monitor it, because again, it's very, very new. And if the need is warranted, I know they've already said that to me. The funder said, if you guys need any additional support, just let us know. So we don't know, because we're still sort of building. I hate saying that. We're flying the plane and building it at the same time. But there's some things that we do know. We want everybody to be tested regularly, including the staff, and we want everyone to be tested.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have a few.
Dr. Rington?
So is this laboratory coming into test? Like, they're providing the test and they're administering the test, is that correct? Or is it a Peoria Public School person who's administering the test?
Josh?
No, it's set up to have Reditus Labs run the test itself. So Reditus is going to provide a staff member at each one of the high schools. That staff member would come in, bring the test, conduct the test, and then query the test back to Reditus Labs for testing. So it would be basically all we're doing is providing the space.
And that's what's in our agreement, Doc. And
Right.
that's a great question. However, if you read today's paper, that's not what it said. So that's why I wanted Josh to take it, because they were closer with him than I do. But in our agreements, they're the ones doing the testing.
So they're gonna be placed at high schools from 9 to 11? Is that what I'm understanding?
Every school has to identify, and I think it's part of the thing, to identify a location for them.
In their school, in the
their
actual school?
In their actual school, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. And yeah.
Okay. And then this might not be a question for you, Dr. Crott, but for the lawyers. I'm wondering about HIPAA and testing and getting students medical and teachers medical out there. Like, my red flags are going off, like this could be a lawsuit with HIPAA and with those types of things. So do we have a concern about that?
Jen, are you on? Actually, our attorney, Stan, drafted the agreement for us. Yes. They were the ones who drafted it.
So Jen, are you on the phone?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. So can you just give the board some information about how this does not violate HIPAA, knowing the students' medical outcomes of these COVID tests?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on the current status and the pandemic that's going on right now, this is okay to do. We don't see any HIPAA violations at all. The only information that is getting out there is whether or not they're COVID positive or not.
Okay, and I'm assuming we won't release students' names.
Correct.
Correct, okay.
Yes, that's
And so then just my last question kind of goes off what one of the audience members said tonight, is I know that other districts are reporting just like, here are so many cases in this building, and are we going to start doing that? Because to be honest, until she said something, I didn't realize that we had cases in elementary schools. They might have been in my email, but like it's not being reported, and so as a district, are we gonna do that also?
Yeah, we talked about that a lot as a team, and I asked, because somebody else asked me a couple of weeks ago, and I asked Josh, I said, who's doing that in our area? Josh, do you still have that information about who's
Yeah,
actually?
I just ran through real quick. Dr. Karat asked me kind of over the weekend, so I sat down and started to pull up district sites that were, just general in the area. And out of about, 8 or 9 that I checked, I've only found 2 that actually had the information where I could find it on their website. I know it was Washington was one, and I don't remember the other one off the top of my head. But locally, I was only able to find 2 districts that actually were posting their COVID numbers on their website.
And so as a district, are we thinking about it? Or, I mean, just in the sense of transparency?
We can.
I don't know the pros and cons of
Yeah,
it,
I
but
mean, yeah.
for the sense of transparency to know maybe, because I know Morton does, because I just received some, and I know Dunlap was at the beginning. I don't know if they are anymore. But like, I'm just wondering, as a district, are we going to communicate that, and if so, how, and kind of the process of thinking through the pros and cons of that?
Yeah, do we communicate it with our families?
We communicate when
When
there's
there's a positive.
individual in the building.
And I was thinking about that, Dr. Rankin. I think Bradley does. And so, I mean, we can, as the next largest, district in the area, there's nothing, I mean, nothing to hurt us at all. And I thought about it, and I don't have a problem with it. We talked about it as a team, so I'll talk to the team again about it, and we can put it up easily. That's not a problem. And then Ms. Costick, for the numbers today, approximately, but I'll get that to the board also. I did ask for it, and I may have left it on my desk. I'm not sure what happened to it, but in terms of number of students today, overall as a district, 2,100 for today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So when you take everything into consideration, it's not 13,000 kids.
I do have another question in regards to the testing. Well, I understand that, Heartland Clinic may be one of the providers as a testing site. Is there a reason that we didn't utilize Heartland for testing versus Reddit Laboratories with the volume of testing that Heartland does? What was the reason that we're going with the laboratory? Is it the quick testing or what?
Yes, ma'am. Quick, number one, Heartland, are they still doing the one that goes to your forehead? So that one is actually, very good question. That one is invasive. And that's a different, Dr. Rankin talked about litigious. So that's much more challenging for us. And then also the results are not as prompt as Redditus. And obviously Redditus, Mrs. Costick, they have a lot of resources. They're the experts. Actually, they're the ones that they produce the results for Heartland. Heartland hire them to do work for them. So they're the real deal. They do everything. And
okay.
Remember the
I was just asking.
Yeah, no problem. And he's a graduate of Peoria Public Schools, and he's matching that, so it's not costing us anything at all. I've made a lot of attempts to work with Heartland, and we're still continuing to explore with them, but this is definitely the best deal in town.
Gotcha.
In the
Okay, thanks.
in the state of Illinois, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Dr. Karat? Seeing none.
I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. Item number 2, proposed expenditures over 2,500. Questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none. Item number 3, report of requests under the Freedom of Information Act and the status of such requests. Dr. Karat.
Thank you so much, President Shaw. Since our board meeting on November 12th, we received 3 new requests. There was also one pending that was noted on November 12th, and it is pending. So to date, we have received 47 requests for this calendar year at a cost of $1,650. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. We are ready for the consent agenda. Vice President Wilson.
Yes, President Shaw, the consent agenda consists of the following items. Item 1, gifts to school district. 2, payment of bills. 3, payment for travel. 4, human resources report. 5, renewal of reinsurance, all employees. And item 6, agreement with Reditus Laboratory LLC regarding COVID-19 PCR testing. And that is the entirety of the consent agenda.
Okay, I have on my agenda 5 items.
I'm sorry?
You said 5? Okay, I thought you said 6. You said 5. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I'm hearing things, sorry. Okay, are there any items that board members would like pulled for a separate vote? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda as a whole?
Mr. Shaw?
Yes, Mrs. Ross?
Yes, I have a question regarding the reinsurance. Is Mr. Willis available?
He is.
Yes.
Okay. Is there, I know you gave some information on why, well, is there a reason why our insurance, I mean, are we going outside? I know we've been with this insurance committee for a very long time. And I've always questioned whether or not they, they actually went out and searched for us. But there's the increase in the insurance for this coming year that was quite a bit. So what would be the reason for that? Did we add more? Did we increase it? Increase the coverage? Or what happened?
We kept the coverage the same. One aspect of the coverage improved, which cost a little bit, but for the most part, what we quoted was the same. In terms of the bids, this is one of those items that from year to year to year, we worry is going to increase 20 or 30%. We were worried it would increase by quite a bit this year, so got 5 bids. What we are recommending was an increase that was double digit, but it was the lowest rate that we got quoted, and one of the highest quote was like more than double what we are asking you to approve. So, and I guess the other part is in our total insurance program's about $24 million or so. This is about 1/24, so it's like 4 or 5% of our entire insurance program, and really is a lot like insurance against earthquake or fire. It really protects us on major catastrophes. And we have, for example, 2 cases right now that look like will cost the district several $millions. And so that program, that reinsurance coverage protects us against those real major catastrophic cases. If we didn't have that, next year, 2021, just based on the one case we know about now, that case could easily add $5 million to our claims experience. And so that's, it's kind of like earthquake or fire or flood insurance. You buy it to protect yourself against the major catastrophe, and then you hope you never see it. So it's about 1/24 or 4 or 5% of our total insurance spend.
Oh, this amount is only 1.5% of the total?
Four or about 5%.
5% of the total spend
Yes.
on insurance.
Yes.
But not health insurance, right?
Health insurance spend. It's about 5% of our major medical program spend.
So the rest, the other 95% is still have to come to us.
Well, that's mainly the claims. Like on the other part, for example, we did not request a rate increase this year because our experience this particular year was good. A lot of that probably was COVID related. For several months, people did not go to the doctor, did not have elective surgeries. I'm one of them. I was scheduled in July, and I put it off till January. People made decisions like that, and they still are. And so our claims, our insurance claims on our major medical program is down this year. So we did not need to increase our rates this year, which means that what we thought we were going to spend, we aren't. And so this increase, although it's a double-digit increase, 11.5%, something like that, in the scheme of the whole program, the rest of our costs are zero increase so far.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering how it compared to last year's increase, because this time I don't think I've been trying to pull up all my documents. I don't think I've ever seen it jump $122,600.
I can pull last year's increase. I don't remember off the top of my head. I do remember there was an increase. That's why we took the bids, but I can pull last year's increase and forward that to you. That would be in the files.
Okay, that's fine. I was just wondering how it compared, because I know that there's some validity to insurance companies kind of gouging in this this arena here with COVID-19 and that. So I was just wondering.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Kloss? Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson? Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion passes.
Deliberation agenda, item number 6. Is there a motion to accept item number 6? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on item number 6. That is the policy number 7:280, students in communicable and chronic infectious disease. That is the COVID-19 testing. Any questions or comments on item number 6? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Kloss? Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 7, proposed revision to Board Policy 5:60, expenses. Is there a motion to accept?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on item number 7. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus? Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 8, proposed revision to Board Policy 2:125, Board Member Compensation Expenses. Is there a motion to accept item number 8?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on number 8.
President Shaw,
Yes, Mrs. Ross.
I had a quick question. I know this is something we've been looking at for a while and trying to get clarification on the per diem in that as relates to this. I don't know if we ever really got an answer on that. But I'll look back at that and see. But I don't know the purpose for this policy, except that it hasn't really changed a lot.
You're talking about the rate, the per diem rate.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the current per diem rate for board members.
Right, the whole compensation, we're talking about compensation for board members. We don't get any compensation, of course, except reimbursement. But is this also connected to the per diem in that for travel?
Dr. Ike?
Yeah, the last time this was discussed, remember we went back and shared the updated rates and sent to all the board members. So, and that's on the website right now. But you're right. It says compensation, but there is no compensation for the board. That's just the title of the policy. And the only reason why you're looking at it again this time is that our legal eagles, they're always monitoring the press policies, and if there's any update out there, this one happens to be on GATA, the Government Accountability and Transparency Act. And so they will just tweak it to make sure that it's compliant.
Okay. Mrs. Ross, did you have any further questions?
No.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members on item number 8? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 9, proposed revisions to board policy 2:125, exhibit 1. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on item number 9. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson, please unmute your mic. Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson, can you hear me?
I can hear something, but I don't know what it is. That's not him. He's still muted. Don't worry.
Hello?
Oh, okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, you're in the affirmative on this vote.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Motion carries.
Item number 10, firearm policy. Is there a motion to accept item 10?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on item 10?
Can I ask some question?
Yes.
So I'm gonna play the new board member card on this one. I know that there's some background to it, and I've also kind of done a little bit of research about how this, I don't think it says it in here, but in 2014, this was also on the board, docket. Can anyone kind of give me a summary of the history of this and kind of where we're moving as a district with this with the firearm policy?
Yeah, the history's, it's part of
Yeah.
yeah, so you have where it says, for over 40 years, you have that, we've been a police department and so forth, you have that. And then what happened, actually I came in 2015 and it was taken away, their rights to carry arms. And so what we ended up doing when I came in 2015 is the board still wanted security, at least at the 3 high schools. And so we ended up meeting with the city and collaborating with them and agreed to pay. The agreement was, it cost us $200,000 for three guns at the high school. Actually, they threw in one at, 4th at Woodruff. And with the guy, the officer could, if they were short, they would pull him and, so forth. But we could definitely have access to this 4th officer, but we paid definitely for 3. And so throughout the years, there are a lot of individuals who've been working to sort of get things back like they were. And eventually what happened through legislation, this opportunity that we have, which is to not like, really we're decertified. Then we're not police officers, but now they're considered security personnel. And security personnel with this new legislation, they can be armed. And with you in front of you, I don't have it committed to memory,
fine, yeah.
but all of the training, 20 hours of this and so forth. And we've spent, I know Mr. Walther has worked a lot on it. We've spent a lot of time, trying to be deliberate and intentional and just working with all of our partners. It's taken us literally 5 years, the entire time, and we were pretty fortunate. The way we're able to arm our security personnel is, there are several ways it can be done, but the most effective for us was to get permission from our state's attorney.
Okay.
And so we've had several meetings with her, and there are other districts, actually. We're not the only ones that have utilized this path. And so that's where we are. And so I think the number one thing is that we're definitely able to save. I mean, so you multiply 200,000 times 5 years, right? It adds up. And so the primary reason really for us, and we have been doing this, we've been working on it for 5 years, is really to save that money. Does that help?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
You're
So from my understanding, historically and right now, you're asking just for the high schools, for no other schools, is that correct?
Correct. And there was a lot of conversation. Actually, Mr. Wilson, I will have him pick that up because there's a lot of conversation there. And this came through the policy team, so I'm going to throw the ball over to Vice President Wilson. Vice President Wilson, are you on?
Yes, I got booted off there for a second, so I just got back in. Can you, what did you need?
Yeah, so Mr. Wilson, what I'm asking is that what's in front of us, so historically it sounds like it's been armed security personnel at the high schools. And so my question is it only the high schools or are in the future, are we also discussing other schools within our district, or we're sticking to the high schools?
Yes, we're sticking to the high schools, and that includes Woodruff as well. to my understanding.
Correct.
Yeah, so just the high schools for now and Woodruff.
So yeah, in the past, actually, everybody carried weapons, and then 2015, they were decertified. And so for us, it's just really the high school, and Mr. Wilson definitely being, and actually, and Mr. Kloss, they both, I think, co-chair that committee, added Woodruff, which makes a lot of sense, because there are a lot of high school kids there.
So yeah, I'm in favor of this, but I would just wonder, kind of so for the policy committee, the research behind and the reasoning behind why only the high schools, when 8th graders are, adults also, and I'm wondering where the reasoning is for only the high schools and not other schools in the district.
Dr. Ryan, can I kind of brought that up too? This initial one, well, I guess I should say one of them was proposed to us. And after me and Klaus had reviewed it, we kind of see what we have in front of us now. But I think the plan is to look at that down the line in the future as this thing, I know, me personally, I wouldn't want to do all schools without having and seeing how this works with inside of our high schools.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thinking behind it, if I'm not mistaken. As I said, though, this was proposed to us, to the policy committee. So, we didn't form it, on our own.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm in favor of this. I just would question, why are we leaving out other schools? And I can understand we're trying it at the high schools and then kind of moving down in the schools, but I would just wonder as a district, as a policy committee, and as administration, kind of the reasoning, and seeing if we can put that reasoning at other levels of schools also, is just kind of where my question is.
President Shaw?
Yes, Mrs. Ross.
Okay, as you know, I've been, and I couldn't even hear what whoever was talking. I guess that was Dr. Brott talking about the history of this initiative. Originally, when we first started using, I've asked for an account of how much the insurance would cost if our security were carrying guns. I'm sure, because I've been told that insurance for people carrying guns are going to be higher. I never got that amount. But back when we started with the Peoria Police Department, we were doing it on a CARES, on a COPS grant, where the district and the department would pay for the training and that, and they would pay for the officers to be in our schools, in 3 of our schools. So we had three Peoria police
Mrs. Ross,
officers.
Mrs. Ross, hold on 1 second. We got some feedback on the line.
Can those on the phone use *6 to mute, please?
If you're calling in on a phone, can you use *6 and mute your line, or I guess you can mute your phone, but yeah, just mute yourself. Use *6 if you're calling in. There we go. Thank you, Mrs. Ross. Please proceed.
Thank you. But I just wanted to kind of back up a little bit, because I've always been concerned about our security being in our schools with guns. Now, that I'm mainly concerned about the kind of training that they will be getting. And I've questioned this many, many times. If they do not go through the police training, which is one option on that list that I saw, then right now in our arsenal, if you will, there's only 2 people that's already trained to carry guns, and they're already doing that either in another school or in another police department. So we have 2 people already currently qualified, but the rest of the whole group are not qualified to carry a gun as a security officer. Some things we were supposed to be working on is we have some captains and one lieutenant, we're going to have one captain, some lieutenants and sergeants. All that stuff is supposed to be kind of, ironed out to see where we go from here. I personally, I know that we need to have security in our school. I personally don't like guns in the school. It seems to carry the wrong message. But we've been working on this for a number of years, trying to see what is the best way to provide security. And at the time, the best way was to have Peoria police provide us with 3 people. And at one point, it was not at a cost. I'm not sure why that COPS grant was not available anymore. But my point is, it's probably going to cost us more to have our own people train. And the training is not cheap if the training is done right. Evaluated, psychologically, and have insurance for the school district. And I wish I could get an amount that we would have to be paying, because ICE is probably going to balance out to be more with us doing it and what people doing. They carry their own insurance and that kind of thing. So I just like to get an amount of that. It's not that I'm against security, securing our school, but I am just not in favor of having guns and in the hands of people that are not trained.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes, Mr. Waller?
Yeah, first of all, it's not 2. I think we have 15 people that can carry guns of the people who are on the staff right now, because we have a number of people who work part-time jobs at other cities where they're there. The training that we're going to do, which we've done for like 25 years, would be the same training that the Peoria Police Department, state police go through. So not only that, but our chief has done such a good job with our SROs that they're very well trained.
You cut out, Mr. Waller.
And while he's coming back, you can check it out. There are only 2 people who have kept their certificate up with this district. And those 2 are Monica Wilson and Patrick Meacham. Anybody can check it out, because the state will tell you everything you need to know.
Well, I think, I don't know if the policy committee has, I know we took this up when I was on the policy committee. The understanding was that no one would be carrying a weapon without proper training and certification.
Correct. And that's what that's
Okay.
That is correct, President Shaw.
Okay, and I support this, item, not because I'm not a fan, I'm not a gun advocate, but just in the unlikely event that somebody enters one of our buildings with the intent to do harm, I want them to be able to respond to that threat without hesitation. And, hopefully we never see that scenario, but I don't want to tie the hands of security when our students and staff are at stake. Other comments?
My phone kicked off, Mr. Shaw. I just wanted to speak in favor of this too.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Waller.
No, that was basically. I'm sorry, my phone's been having some problems. It kicked off in mid-speech, but no, I agree with Ross or anybody else. I don't think we should have anybody out there that's not well trained and qualified, and we do have that. I'm very comfortable in that.
Other comments? Okay, seeing none, please call a roll.
Mrs. Costick?
No.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walther?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Mrs. Ross, are you muted?
No.
Okay, she's no.
President Shaw?
Aye.
2 nays, motion carries.
Okay. Presentations and suggestions by board members. Any comments, any input from board members? Seeing none.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes, Mrs. Ross.
Okay, just comments by board members. I would like a report from our security department as to who's qualified as far as have gone through I know that most everybody has gone through the police training, but their certificates have been been expired more than 3 years, and so they have to go back through the training. I would like a complete report on that and how much the insurance is going to cost for our officers to carry guns in our schools.
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Karat has taken that note. Other input from board members?
Yeah, I have Mr. Shaw, I almost
Yes.
called you Dr. Shaw.
Thank you.
In following up kind of what Mrs. Ross had said, I have asked for 3 board meetings in a row for a complete printout of our legal expenses from Dr. Ike. This is the 3rd meeting in a row. We don't have it. So I'm just asking kindly, I'd like to see that before the next board meeting.
You'll get it, Mr. Walter. I almost called you Dr. Walter. I think it's ready. I know they've been working on it. Okay. So they have been working. They have been working on it for you, sir. Thank you for your patience.
Okay.
Other input from board members? Okay. Reports from board committees. Any committee reports?
Yeah, President Shaw, the policy committee will meet November 18th at 3:30.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Other committees?
The policy committee, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Other committees? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
It's been moved and seconded.